So over to you, Manny. Good afternoon, Manny Stanley of the Indigenous Peoples. We are grateful to Mexico, Germany, Colombia, Brazil for the words that they have shared with us here today.
Thank you, Musa, and thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to see many familiar faces and many new faces. And I just also want to start with my gratitude to the interpreters, many of whom are familiar voices for the past 3 years. So a big thank you. You are now voices in my head.
Before 2009, the CFS reform, the governments didn't do anything. They were just asleep. They were sleeping on their laurels within the CFS. And now, who is providing dynamism here? It's civil society. It's the social movements. And who do we owe this process to? It is the strength of social movements, the fact that they have been so persistent, the indigenous people being persistent, year after year, meeting after meeting, debate after debate. And we have the CFS products. The problem is that they're not implemented, but the products are there, they exist. So the voluntary guidelines on gender equality and women empowerment, and also the voluntary guidelines on data. Now, personally, my country, Spain, we share the fact that, well, we would have liked to go much further in these agreements. And as chair of the committee, I have to point out that these are the best agreements that we could have possibly reached, above all in terms of gender equality. And so I very much invite us to celebrate the fact that the CFS has been able to reach agreement in these areas. It may be imperfect, I acknowledge that. It may be a starting point, that's true.
So I'll just share with you what happened into the General Assembly. Maybe we can learn from what happened at the General Assembly for what we're about to go into in the CFS. On Thursday, me and several other special rapporteurs put out a statement, a media statement, raising the alarm in Gaza, noting that there's a risk of genocide. We do not use this term lightly. This has very specific legal meaning. Genocide means that people are targeted, civilians are killed because of who they are. Genocide means, the risk of genocide means that Palestinian people are being starved because simply they are Palestinian. This is what genocide means, and this is why there's an alarm.
Creo que se ha avanzado mucho.
So I think a lot of progress has been made in better understanding how that role can be played. That would be my answer. We have explored different pathways, and these 2 years, well, these pathways have led to a consolidation within the MIPAL of an ongoing function for this committee. And periodically, well, as we have seen in the MIPAL, this will establish a permanent monitoring function and also of coordination, so sharing information and also providing responses over the coming period. And this includes the progressive definition of a way of working, an institutionalization of that way of working in the committee. And I believe that, well, that's the greatest source of satisfaction for me. And we have done this learning as we went along during these 2 years of crisis. We have found that some pathways were closed off because there was no consensus among all countries. There was no consensus on moving forward and walking along those paths. And our focus was on policy convergence. And then we've also been exploring other functions as a platform. This year and in previous years, other fundamental agreements have been reached as well. And this is a time when very few multilateral organizations and international spaces are actually able to reach agreements. And I would say to all of you, we're very proud of this. And of course, it's not perfect. I agree with Paula that there are indeed shortcomings and gaps. And I see some shortcomings, you see others, and then some countries see different shortcomings. And sometimes one thing we see as a strength, others see as a weakness. And I wanted to say thank you first and foremost, because we are very much aware of the efforts being made, and these efforts will never be enough. They will never be enough because literally this is our lives depend on this. We are risking our lives in the gender process. We've said this many times. They are killing us on a daily basis. We are being killed. The peoples of the world are being killed. And so this is not, so the work is never enough. Now, our friends, our colleagues, they're losing their lives. And it's a privilege, really, to be able to be here. Good example of successful methodology in terms of coordination among our regions. Thank you. Thank you, Andre. So we have been wondering, we have been asking if the interpreter can stay with us a few minutes more so that we can have space for a couple more speakers.